Hi, Bloody Recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a horror film, The Loved Ones. Keep your eyes open and stay focused. Our protagonist Brent Mitchell and his father are driving and his father tells him how he conceived his son in the back seats. And Brent is disgusted by the news and teases his father about acting like an old man because he doesn't want to listen to heavy music. A bloody, naked guy appears in the middle of the road and Brent fails to steer and crashes into a tree. We get transported 6 months forward to a school day and Jimmy hands Brent the illegal substances and asks what the alcohol situation is like for prom. Jimmy asks what Brent and his girlfriend Holly are gonna do after the dance and he says he's gonna smoke weed and chill. But his friend doesn't think so and gives Brent condoms, but he hints him to turn around and there goes Mia, who he's totally into, and Brent nudges him to ask her to the dance and she says yes. A girl appears behind Brent. This is Lolly. She invites her to go to the dance with her, but Brent refuses and apologizes several times because he will go with his girlfriend Holly. He meets his girlfriend in the street and tells her that a girl asked him to the dance without telling her name. In the car they kiss and the girl is still intrigued by who asked him. He has a pendant with a blade and Brent has cuts on his side. Going downstairs once more asks who asked him, but he keeps quiet and Lolly watches them through the window. Holly drives him closer to home. On the way out he says Lolly invited him and Holly says he should have said yes. Maybe she likes unstable guys with suicidal tendencies, alluding to his cuts. At home Brent listens to heavy rock and his mother walks in and he muffles the music. She doesn't really want him to go with Holly and offers him money for a taxi. Supposedly the drivers are experienced, to which he replies that not as experienced as he was when his father died. He leaves the house with the dog and listens to heavy rock and cuts his hand with a blade from a pendant. While Holly prepares for the evening, Brent goes over a cliff and climbs it, but halfway up it hangs on one arm and is lost in thought, but nearly gets torn off the cliff and finally climbs to the top and rests. Brent's mother smokes a cigarette, and Brent takes a drag and enjoys the view. A dog barks at someone, but Brent can't hear over his headphones. His mother calls him, and when he picks up the phone, a man starts choking him from behind, shoving the phone off the cliff and dragging his body away. Jimmy gets high and puts on air freshener and goes out to get a girl who looks adorable. Her mother asks Mia to wait. Her father wants to take a photo. Her father works for the police. After the photo, they leave. Brent's mom goes to his place but doesn't find him there. In the car, Jimmy explains to Mia that the dog was sniffing his crotch because he has grass, so she doesn't think he's not washing there. She asks him if he really thinks she's going to blow him. A car with an awning covered pulls up to the diner and Mom and Holly find a battered dog outside. Brent's mom calls Mia's dad because he's a cop. He says that Brent has done this before but always comes back, but she answers that this time the dog was cut up. Holly takes the dog to the vet, but he dies on the way. Jim shows off to Mia, falls off the bonnet and opens the door for her like a gentleman. The pickup notices the animal's corpse on the side of the road, returns and takes it with him. He drives down a country road and arrives at some farmhouse. When the tent opens we see Lolly and her father. She thinks he is dead, but her father finds a heartbeat and Lolly repeats boom boom, boom boom, boom boom. Lolly tapes a photo of Brent to her diary and paints a heart with a red dot on it. Her father walks into the room and gives her a gift of shoes and a brand new dress. When he leaves she asks him to wait until she puts on the new dress and her father stares at his own daughter's figure. He says she's as miraculous as a princess. Brent wakes up in a house with a party atmosphere. His father is sitting opposite him and Lolly is looking at him. The chair is fastened tightly to the floor and his hands are tied. He sees that a woman with a hole in her forehead is sitting on his right. They call her Shining Eyes. They inject a blue liquid into Brent's neck that makes him lose his voice and his father takes a picture with Lolly and the woman next to him. Jimmy and Mia party in a wheelbarrow to Hard Rock. The Looney family are having dinner at the table and Lolly decides to feed Brent, but when he dodges, his father puts a hammer on the table and in a repeated attempt to feed, his father slaps the table and Brent nods that it's good. He asks to go to the toilet and she says no toilet until he opens his mouth. She puts her finger there and makes him suck it. Then she asks him if he needs a small or a big one. He nods small. She drinks the contents of the glass and unzips his fly. But Brent doesn't do the deed and she asks Daddy to carry a hammer for cheating her. Dad says he killed his dog with this hammer and Lolly asks for more nails. She makes him condition that if he doesn't pee in 10 seconds, Daddy will nail his dick to a chair. But at the 9th second, Brent does his and she threatens to bite it off, but Brent pushes her off with his legs and runs off, and Dad worries about Lolly and runs up to her, but soon starts following Brent. He can't be seen outside, but Dad turns on the lights and Brent finds himself under the car cutting the ropes on his legs. Dad gets in the car and starts it up, and Brent cuts the rope and gets out from under the car, but he backs up and seeing Brent starts to drive at him, but he climbs a tree and he crashes the car. Lolly comes and saying she closed her shining eyes in the room and starts throwing rocks at him and hits one at Brent. He falls unconscious. He is dragged into the house and tied up, and his dad starts stabbing Brent in the leg because boys aren't supposed to hit girls. The officer finds Brent's things, and while Holly is talking to his mom, the officer comes and showing Brent's things. Lolly shows Brent the magazine with her victims. She says Timmy Valentine is the only one who escaped, and Brent remembers it was the guy on the road when his dad died. Lolly says she's ready to do a sketch. Jimmy is still getting high with Mia, and Lolly has already done a drawing with a fork on Brent's chest. In the meantime, they taunt him by pouring salt on the wound. Holly finds a card and a bouquet in Brent's room that were addressed to her with the words, "I love you." Jimmy and Mia finally get out of the car and head to the ball stoned. Lolly is declared queen of the ball, and when Brent fails to whistle, her father is already preparing the gavel, but Brent produces a hoarse sound. Lolly is crowned. The headmistress asks Mia to leave the ball because of her condition. Brent dances with Lolly while her psychotic father dumps confetti on them. Brent already has 2 knives driven into her legs. Lolly tells him she is looking for her husband, but calls Brent another frog and stabs at him. She asks her father to dance, and Brent tries to get the blade out of his pocket, but it falls into a chair. Lolly says her prince has always been Daddy, and when they are about to kiss, Brent falls back on the chair to pick up the blade. The policeman walks Holly home and tells her the rescue team will be here by morning. But at home she leaves an audio message for her mother and she becomes hysterical. Dad cuts off the critter's head and they open the basement under the carpet from where the scary noises are coming from. They pour water on the creatures in the basement, and Lolly says they're not loud enough asking for food and doesn't leave the critter. Jimmy stops with Mia in a field and she pounces on him. Daddy comes out of the house and there's a knock on Jimmy's car while he's busy with Mia. The principal asks to leave the school grounds and Daddy takes the toolbox. Lolly says Brent is the first person she's going to drill into his head. Daddy takes off his crown and holds him tightly, and Lolly slowly approaches his forehead but slips the first time, and Daddy asks her to hold with 2 hands and not too deep. She digs into Brent's skull and her father stops her, telling her that she has done everything perfectly. The kettle boils and they want to pour boiling water on Brent's wound, but she misses on her father's arm. She complains that the wound is too small and asks her father to enlarge it, and as the process goes on, Brent cuts the rope and hurts his dad's face. Grabbing a screwdriver, he cuts the ropes on his legs and pulls out knives. He stabs his father in the neck, but Lolly pounces from behind. After a fight, he knocks her out and throws his father into the basement. There are naked people there, if you can call them that, who immediately start eating him. Lolly throws Brent in the basement from behind. It turns out to be the same guys with the drilled head. The glowing eyes are exactly the same, they just haven't dumped her in the hole. Lolly closes the cellar and Brent finds a torch in the dark and shines it on them, which they are clearly not happy about, and surround Brent. He knocks one out, but 2 clamp him down in the corner. Lolly stands apathetically upstairs while Brent battles these long-standing non-humans. Jimmy takes Mia to the house, saying that all her feet got stomped on during the dance, and Brent covers the bodies with his jacket. Examining the basement, he realizes the only way out is through a hole in the ceiling. Lolly comes to the shining eyes, and Mia's father walks into her bedroom. She cries and asks why her father can't find him. Turns out Timmy Valentine, who ran away, is a member of their family. Lolly strangles the shining eyes and she dies. While Brent sits in the basement without hope, Holly remembers that Brent turned Lolly down and she calls a cop calling her name. He arrives at their house and sees the bloody floor through the window. He breaks down the door and goes inside, and Brent screams and throws a torch against the cellar door. The cop hears this and opens the door, but Lolly stabs him in the face from behind and he falls into the cellar. Brent grabs the gun and she runs away, but Brent fires the clip to nothing. She finds the blade and says she wants to go to Brent's house and do to his mother what he did to his father and then go to Holly. She walks across the field at dawn, and Brent, seeing the mountain of bones, guesses she can line her way out. She walks down the middle of the road, and seeing the car gets off. It's Holly driving. Lolly's magazine flies into her windshield and she stops. As she is looking at the pages of the magazine, Lolly opens the door and Holly sees Brent's harness around her neck and she pounces on it. But Holly gets out of the car and manages to escape. Brent bodies his way out of the basement. Lolly is way behind Holly and Brent rushes down the road, and when Holly appears in the middle he dodges her but immediately knocks Lolly over. Holly gets in the car and cries from Brent's appearance, and Lolly crawls towards the car but Brent backs up and runs her over, and Brent and Holly go back to their mom's house. Support the channel by subscribing, like, and on notifications, because with it you will be the first to know about the video. Thank you for watching.